Welcome. Good morning. This is Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Mark and welcome to our Wild Earth broadcast this morning from Djuma Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sands. Part of the Greater Kruger National Park, one of Africa, if not South Africa's best and most notable game reserves, national parks. A little bit of a grey day this morning. We had a bit of weather moving in late last night, or rather late yesterday afternoon, and a little bit of rain overnight. Sky looks fairly high this morning, so I don't think there's much chance of rain. It's a very high ceiling, and it's cooled things down somewhat, made a really lovely temperature, I suppose. It's not warm, it's not cold, a little bit cool. This is going to affect animal behavior somewhat, I think. It normally does. Big change in temperature from really, really hot days turning into cold and overcast or a little bit windy. However, for some things it makes them hide away, and for some things it brings them out. What you make up on the swings you lose on the roundabouts, or maybe the other way around. So join us, let's go and find something for you. I have good news in that Jigger will also be out this morning, and in a few minutes I'm sure we'll be able to switch over to Scott and say hello, see how Jigger is performing, or rather how broadcasting. I'm just trying to fix one thing that just suddenly came loose. Things always coming loose, I suppose, because of rattling roads, because of bouncing around out here in the bush. Right, I lost my feather, must have fallen out. Right, let's go find something. If I don't spill my tea. A lot of the technical issues that we've experienced the last 2 days have been because of our satellite link. Someone's fooling with our satellites. I don't know, maybe it's ET up there playing a joke on us. What should we do? VM on camera. Alex is in final control. What should we do? We should go up and find out. We'll get there. What did he say? I thought I saw something up Hotel Access Road. Well, I think we'll just wander around and see what we can find for tracks. There were a lot of tracks of elephant up towards the gate. That little area where they seem to cross the corner of Djuma, the corner of Gari, Western Gari, up to the big dam in Arathusa. A lot of elephant activity up there, which means that there's possibly a lot of elephant activity all over. And let's see if we can find some fresh tracks of theirs. Kingfisher. A little bit cool actually. Here's some elephant tracks. Look at that right here on the quarantine. Lots of early tracks. Been rained on during the night. They were all heading north. Big bulls. I saw a big bull yesterday that I don't believe I've seen before in Manuleti. He was a big one tusker, single tusker. tracks from a family of elephants that went south. So we might get lucky with earlies today. I believe we were very lucky with Nkunhuma yesterday. Scott found Nkunhuma, and I believe, despite all the shortcomings of the broadcast signal and the satellite link, managed to get some pictures out of Nkunhuma, Karula's one of her last cubs. Now a 2-year-old leopard. Morning, Lorraine. Thank you, Lorraine, for the compliment.
Where's the monkey?
Where is the monkey? It's a very good question. He saw the weather and he didn't get out of bed this morning. Como's day in. Rain that fell last night was very light drizzle, so all the tracks that have been around for the last few days or the last week or so are splitting. And when it gets a little bit of rain like that, it kind of the texture of the sand, so that any actually stands out almost like a permanent marker. Well, so far, it looks like the elephants might have headed towards Djuma waterhole. Alex, what did you say was down at the dam? Yeah, thanks. I was hoping maybe we would see the sausages in the sausage tree, but it's a little bit dark because of the cloud. Not going to get that far. But we've got this lovely pond here in the dip at Philemon's Dip. A lot of Ludwigia, this plant that's growing on the water that's actually spreading, and it won't take long actually. I reckon by the end of the month it'll probably cover this whole little pond. It's a plant called Ludwigia. It actually has air bladders in its floating roots that help to keep the plant afloat. Tiny little yellow flowers that you get on the Ludwigia. But the roots have these swellings that have almost like spongy air pockets. An incredible adaptation. Obviously giving water a lot of oxygen, and of course keeping the water fairly cool with the shade of the leaves, and preventing a lot of the algae growth that is happening at some of the dams this time of the year on some of the hot days. Algae blooms and then the algae dies, turns red and brown. I think we need to try and find, on a day like today when it's cool and a little bit damp, we need to find a tree house, or rather a tree frog's foam nest that might be hatching. Well, I'm guessing that most of them have probably dripped down into the ponds by now. Other thing in a day like today we need to look for is signs of hyena. Our signs, not his, our. Yeah. We need to find where hyena have been walking around, especially tracks from early this morning heading back to maybe where their new den is, because they don't seem to be at the old den. Hello marula tree, sorry to see you falling. Jeffrey, morning Jeffrey, in Austin, Texas. Jeffrey is raising a subject that I could probably waffle on about for quite some time. Have elephants ever attacked any other large mammals, like giraffe for instance? Not giraffe, Jeffrey, no, not giraffe. However, this is where it gets interesting and sad at the same time. And sadly, us humans are perpetuating this kind of thing. But I'll get to that at the end, or when, if I remember it, if I'm not distracted by things like, oh look, here Impala, and then I forget about the question. Jeffrey, there was a time, many years ago, back in the 80s, even going into the early 90s, the practice stopped in the early 90s. But from the 70s going to the 80s and the early 90s, the Kruger Park was a lot smaller than it is now. The private reserves on the edge of Kruger, like the Sabi Sand and the Timbavati and all of the others that are now incorporated into Kruger, were all self-contained reserves. So it was relatively important, or it was fairly important to manage populations of large mammals. Especially because having had the protection of a national park for so long, and I'm speaking specifically of Kruger now, having had the protection for almost 100 years, or at least 9 decades, the animals had bred to the point where it was decided at the time, based on management principles at the time, that elephant numbers needed to be thinned out. There was nowhere to take them. We didn't have quite the technology and the expertise that we have today, or the funding for that matter, to translocate elephants, because to do so would require capturing an entire herd and moving an entire herd, which I have to add has been done more recently. However, in the past there were practices that I don't want to go into too much detail about. But essentially what happened was that a herd would be culled, but the calves would be spared. Now, just near Manyaleti is another reserve called Andover, and calves from these culling operations were corralled in a boma, what we call a boma at Andover, and then when the numbers right, they would ship them off to reserves, nature reserves or game reserves and national parks, where they were trying to re-establish elephant populations. At the time, I have to emphasize that at the time it was thought that that was the best way to populate areas with elephants and establish populations that could spread the distribution of elephants into areas where they once existed but no longer do. And that had all, it was a project that was started with all good intentions, but it actually had disastrous effects, because we didn't know as much as we know now about elephants. Or rather, let's put it this way, scientists didn't know much in terms of behavior and what elephants need. And being an animal that requires trade, that requires teaching, discipline from adults, young elephants that were raised without the guidance of adult elephants. I got to remember, these are wild calves that were put into wild habitats without adult elephant. They were not hand reared by humans. They were old enough, it was thought they were old enough to fend for themselves. And so there were a couple of nature reserves and game reserves where these elephants were put into, and when they started growing up, when they started, especially the young bulls, without the discipline that is required, they became quite boisterous, they became quite roguish. There were no adult elephant bulls to suppress the must in young teenage boys, and over a period of time in some of the reserves and national parks that they were translocated to, these elephants started taking out their frustrations on rhino, and a number of rhino were killed over a period of years. It took a while at first to discover that it was actually the elephants that were killing them, until things were caught on film. I also might add that this is days when there was absolutely no poaching in this country. And so it was quite a shock to be losing rhino in some of the Natal parks. My brother-in-law was a warden at one of the Natal parks where they were experiencing that phenomenon. And Peter Pretorius was a game ranger down in Pilanesberg. Although I think when Peter Pretorius was in Pilanesberg, I think by then the problem had already... I think they'd already managed to identify the problem, and they were starting to take measures to try and rectify it. And one of the things to do was to introduce adult bull elephant into these populations to keep these children in check. And slowly but surely that it alleviated the problem of elephant killing rhino. And I think there might have been the odd buffalo that were killed, but essentially there were no giraffe. As far as I know, no giraffe were attacked. Thank you, Alex. Alex giving me an update that maybe two of the Matimba males are up in the east somewhere, that we might get a chance to see them. Two of the male lion from the Matimbas. So now what I was saying about this being a problem that hasn't quite gone away, we have a country just north of our border that is in the process of negotiating. Well, it's not really negotiating, it's just bowing down to a big eastern power. Zimbabwe has been sanctioned by the rest of the world because of the practices of Comrade President Robert, the dictator, who unfortunately has rather sad practices. There I said it's not going to rain and it's starting to spit. I don't think it's getting too bad just yet. The most shocking thing that I've seen in recent days, months, is that Zimbabwe has given... Oh, this is quite fresh leopard. Perhaps it was before the rain last night. Maybe I want to see if we can pick up that leopard track in the sand there. Zimbabwe has decided that they've got too many elephants, and well, Mugabe has decided that they're going to go through with the cull, and they're going to do exactly what was done 20-30 years ago that caused so many problems. They're going to be capturing the baby elephants, and they're going to send them to China, to rich people for their toys. Now, I don't know if there's anything worse than that. I mean, it's one thing to breed lion in captivity and have their cubs mauled by people just to get photographs of themselves with lion cubs. and those cubs will never grow up to be wild lion. Those, unfortunately, those lions are doomed from birth. But these are wild elephant that are going to be captured by humans, and they're going to be shipped overseas. If there are 50 or 60 of them at a time, I reckon probably 30% of them will die before they even get to China. And I can't imagine the fate of the other children that are going to end up with. I just even want to go there. I can't believe that the world, that us humans can not only do that, but the rest of the world can sit by and not do anything about it. It's like the rhino thing, how we can just, we are all just sitting by and letting China and Vietnam and these countries in the East decimate our wildlife. The rhinos of Africa are not only ours, I mean, it belongs to every human on the planet, the species, and it's integral to our own existence. And yet everybody carries on worrying about the oil price and the exchange rate and banking practices. And well, I understand that for most humans on the planet, the plight of wildlife is far from their own plight to survive and put food on their table. And that when you're barely able to scrape the pennies together to feed your family, why should one really care about what's happening in a country so far away to animals we never like to see? I don't know. The principles involved. Where do we go wrong as humans that these things even happen? When did we lose our compassion for nature or our connection to it? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about, ranting?
Yeah.
A rant book. Or a rant page. Hello Treehouse Dam, where's the leopard? He was here yesterday. Last night maybe. Hello Weaver bird. It was Teresa that always wanted to see the weavers. A little bit difficult with this light. We've got a very flat light at the moment without the morning sunshine. Spitting has stopped, that's good. boys. Good morning, squires. Try and avoid the very wet dung in the road. Oh, this old man's had his tail bitten, probably by a lion. Not this one we're looking at. There's another one off that we'll get to shortly. He's had lion on his back. You can see the claw marks, and they've been biting him at the base of his tail, probably while sitting on him or holding on to him, trying to immobilize him. Looks like he's got two sort of warts just off to the left of the base of the tail. I don't think that's got anything to do with this recent attack. What is that oxpecker doing? There's some interesting behavior actually. That adult oxpecker. Is that a tick it's fiddling with? I don't know what it was doing. And this is how oxpeckers. It looks terrible. It looks quite bad. He's stopped now. But they actually lap at the blood and they keep wounds open to attract insects and flies. That can be a little bit of a nuisance when things are injured. Possibly also picking at dead skin. And well, you can see the buffalo's feeling it. Looks like there's a bit of a dispute as to who owns the buffalo. The one that's just flown in has been chased by the one that was there already. Yeah, it's doing the same thing again now. I think it's just a giant tick that it's got, that it's trying to drop it now. Let me go and fetch it again. Interesting. He'll probably heal. Doesn't look too bad. That old man. Stopped with that grass right in front of his face. Okay, copy. Well, we're going to head on from the buffalo. In the meantime, I'm going to hand you over to Scott's to say good morning from Jigger. Jigger's back. And we'll be with you, I guess, in a little while. So good luck. See what Scott can find you. We'll see you shortly.
Vehicles. So I believe you've just had an interesting sighting of a buffalo that appears to have come into contact with some lion. So that's interesting. Brian's on camera this morning, and good to be teamed up with Brian again. It's been a while since we were together. So good to be on board with Brian. And we started off this morning driving in and around the lodge area where Nkunhuma was last seen last night. We right-hand side, but it could well have peeled up to the left or the right. So I'm just going to jump out quickly and see if I can find anything. Okay, well, sadly, there don't appear to be any tracks here. There was one that I thought was a track, but I was wrong. So, what we're going to do is just drive around this general area, all the roads that can get us to the different areas that he was heading in generally, and hopefully we might get lucky somewhere along the way. It's a beautiful, cool morning here. Had a little bit of drizzle, but thankfully no heavy rain, but we've got the great cool weather, which is not always the case at this time of the year, where it can be really hot and sticky. So the next little spot I'm going to try and check is an area where Nkunhuma, Quarantine and Karula were all seen quite recently, and it was in and around this big jackalberry where Karula had killed an adult female impala and one of its lambs. And it is an area that they do like to hang out, so we can have a look down here. The signal may cause a bit of an issue, but Alex is ready for that and the final control to cut back to mark, and that is the beauty of having two vehicles out. If we do have any technical issues, we can always swap back to the second vehicle. There's some animals we don't see often. See the monkey there, Brian? Okay, well, no.
Welcome back, everyone. Basically, Did a little bit of a loop around because there were leopard tracks from yesterday coming down to Treehouse, but I'm guessing maybe the leopard might have walked through the drainage line. Didn't come out onto Weaver's Nest, so I might have gone all the way down towards Twin Dams. Caught me in the middle of munching on a breakfast bar. So, just a quick hello again and then back to Scott. Scott's got some primates for you to look at. So we'll switch over and maybe signal will be better for Scott now. So, see you shortly.
Welcome back, and thankfully the presence and on our playing around in this tambuti tree. It seems like quite a big troop, so if we hang around and they do become more relaxed with us, hopefully I can edge forward a little bit closer. And who knows what visuals we may get. But they're in there. There's two that I can see in this shot. I'm not sure if you can see any more. But there are a lot. Oh, there's one that's just coming from the top right. Let's see if there's quite a nice one if you're in the dead center in the bottom, Brian, just a little bit lower. There we go, this one here. So this one's scampered down to give us a better look. And as you can see, he is really giving us, oh wow, this is great footage. He is really giving us the once over. They often shake their head from side to side like that, just to literally eye us out a little bit better. Looks like he's biting his fingernails, maybe he's a little bit anxious of our presence. Now the fact that these vervet monkeys are here is a good, oh hello, is a good indicator that there's not in all likelihood a leopard nearby. So we can rule that out, that Nkunhuma's here. I mean, there is obviously a chance that he's very well tucked away, or any leopard is well tucked away, because leopards do occasionally catch these vervet monkeys. But when they don't, the vervet monkeys, or when the vervet monkeys manage to spot them first, they make a huge racket, and this racket that they make is often very useful for us in finding leopard. But I'm happy that we found the monkeys instead of the leopard. We don't get to view the monkeys often. It's a ridiculous scenario, and that we probably, well, we do definitely have more leopard filmed on this camera than vervet monkeys, or more time on leopards. So I hope you're all enjoying this footage, because we don't get these opportunities very often. I'm gonna, oh Brian, there's a tiny baby. You see in the next tree to the right. I'm not sure if your angle's gonna be okay, but you might get it through this window of the dead leadwood tree branches. Just, if you go up and to the left a little bit, sorry, there baby, well the baby is, I don't know if you're gonna get the angle from where you're seated. but it's just in amongst that group over there. There's a little baby clam. Oh, there it is. Okay, beautiful. Slightly better angle and move a few meters. Come on, Jigga. Uh-oh, not looking good. But they might calm down with that again. Oh, there we go. Well done. Brian's already found a good view of one. It really is awesome how they come and investigate us and bob their heads from side to side. I've been looking for any signs of... Oh, look at this one now, Brian. It's just popped its head out. Oh, wonderful. So thankfully they are quite inquisitive, and after having retreated deeper into that tree, this one individual has now come out to check us out. There's slowly more and more heads appearing, poking out, looking at us, but mainly the youngsters coming to investigate us. There's another one just up to the right of where you are now, Brian. There we go. This one seems like it's using its leg as a guitar for a moment as we zoomed onto it. Let's see if it does it again. Oh, no. Well, the tree that they're in is a tambuti tree. And these trees have got a poisonous wood that if we burn on a fire we will become sick. Look at them. So I'm not sure if there's anything that they can actually feed on here. The only animals that I know of that feed on the tambuti are porcupine that can tolerate the toxins found in this wood. So I don't think there's anything for them to feed on here, but they just ran up there, I think, to take refuge from us as we arrived. I got a little bit of a fright. Thankfully there's this one individual that's really interested in us, because the rest of them have all seemed to hide away. Just using my binoculars to try and look for any other potential monkeys that we could view, but they're all very well hidden away. Although we may have an option here Brian, there is one in that left-hand tree that looks like it might be heading across to... Oh, that's the one you're on. Brian's one step ahead of me, folks, which is no surprise. But the individual that Brian has just come across and focused on now, even though you can't see it, it was definitely the right maneuver, because from that tree that it is in, the rest of the monkeys are moving from left to right, so the majority are in the tree in focus now, and you can see a bit of shaking around there. But that one that Brian went down to on the left-hand tree looked like it may be coming across, and that would have been a good opportunity to film it jumping from tree to tree. And I think we're about to get spoilt with some better viewing opportunities, because they are moving into this dead tree that, well, not dead tree, but more open tree that the individual that you can see is sitting in. And it's nice and open, so let's hope we're going to be able to get some of these youngsters playing. Oh, well done, Brian. And there they are. Let's stay on these three here, even though they are a little bit obstructed, because they could well come into view any second. There we go. That's better. Go ahead with the question, Alex. The question's just come through from David asking whether primates do have colour vision, just like humans. And I would be inclined to say yes, but I actually don't know the answer to that question, David. So Alex, if you don't mind doing a little bit of research on that, or if any of you that are watching know the answer, maybe you could tweet that, but I sadly don't. So it would be interesting to know. There are a few points that Alex has just pointed out to me that will help confirm why I do think they have colour vision to a degree. I'm not sure if you saw earlier, there was one individual who lifted up his legs just about a minute ago, and you may have noticed he had two bright blue testicles. Now, the fact that they do have these bright blue testicles will be to attract females, and it would be a dominance thing. So if they couldn't see in colour, having these blue testicles would be of no good to the males. And also for looking for certain fruits, I guess, that are colourful. That would make sense. That was another point that Alex gave me. So that is our answer for you up to this point, Dave. And like I said, I'm sure we may get some people's insights onto this from Twitter or email. So thanks for that question, Dave. And thanks to these monkeys for putting on a great show for us here. You can see that really long tail dangling down, and without that tail they wouldn't be nearly as nimble in these trees. And we're having a real good playtime session here. Sadly, it is behind a big branch, but I fear if we try going any closer, they may be scared off, and then we'll have to wait for them to calm down again. So let's just wait here, and with a bit of luck they'll continue to play in a few different parts of this tree that are more visible for us. Oh, look at that. It looks like there may be an older cousin bullying a younger one here, but it's all playful. When the youngsters do get a little bit carried away, the adults usually come in and intervene. Here we go. Now they're going to play in the right place. This is what we've been waiting for now. I certainly wouldn't want to be wrestling around on a branch that high up off the ground, but I guess this is what they do best, is the ability to climb and play in trees. And from an incredibly young age, you see these
Came up onto Cheetah Line, a lot of lion tracks here, and look, we got a present for you in the road right up ahead. I'm just trying to get hold of the vehicles. I don't want to just approach if there are other vehicles here. But there is a carpet of cats blocking our road, which is a pity, which means that we're just going to have to stop and look at them. I wanted to carry on and go and find some impala or something, but we'll just have to stop with these cats. This is the whole Nkunhuma's pride. I think these are different line to what Andrew has. I'm just going to talk on the radio a sec. Andrew coming? Whereabout are you? Okay, copied. I've got the Nkunhumas with another, I think maybe a Matimba at Battlefield Junction, or rather Mamba Junction. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, firm. So, this is fantastic. I was looking for other lion, which are actually further down towards Gowrie Main. Nobody's known about this lot that are right here. This is pretty amazing. Now, I don't want to disturb any of them, but I want to just also, so we don't have to worry too much, because other vehicles can actually view them from Torchwood side. So I'm just going to put our nose in here. Hello girls and boys. Is that okay? Not too skiff. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Look at this, folks. It's not often that we actually get to spend time with the entire pride. I'm still not sure who the lion are behind us towards Gowrie Main. Now we need to look at some of the identifying features here, especially of the male. This looks like the Nkunhumas. The youngsters at the back there. great weather to actually watch lion, because ordinarily if the sun was out right now they'd be making their way to shade and probably sleeping, but we're actually likely to see some activity. Very handsome male. From what I can see, he's got a very distinctive spot on his right upper lip, just in front of all his whisker spots, in front of the line of his whiskers. I see he's got a couple of ticks on his upper eyelid as well, his right eye. Tick in his ear. Couple of scars above the left eye. Okay, Alex is saying he's got a bit of a gash on his front leg. No, Mama, don't go to Torchwood, please. They'll all follow you. I wonder if she's carrying. She looks pretty round. Quite heavy in the belly. Good morning, Jane. In Smithville. Jane wants to know if there are two males and how does that work. At the moment there's only one male. There's the young male right up at the back. He's a young male that is probably only about 2.5. He's not quite 3 years old yet, so he's still a youngster. If there were two males, Jane, well, there could be 2, 3, 4, even up to 6 males. And it looks like this big female is moving on to Torchwood, and I'm guessing that if she does, unless she goes to lie down somewhere, the others are likely to follow. Unless she's just going to find some place to sleep for the day. Her sister's watching her now. Maybe she's going off to toilet. But Jane, in lion prides, in lion society, it's not unusual to get a coalition of males that own and defend a territory. Yeah, the whole pride's going to start moving now, because I would imagine that is the alpha female. I'd imagine that she's, although it looks like she's just going to lie down. She's disappeared entirely. I mean, that's how you can drive past a lion and not see them. She's gone into some thick teak, lay down in the grasses and totally invisible. A lion pride that has a coalition of males is obviously a lot stronger. The more males there are, the better the territory they can hold, the better they can defend it against other males, because if you have a coalition of 4 or 5 males, it's not going to be easy to oust them. I thought so. That is definitely a dominant female in the pride. The fact that she's moved off. He's got a pretty bad back leg, this boy. Looks like it's a bit of a hip. Oh, he's not happy. He's growling at the youngsters. Probably because he's sore. Maybe it's foot actually. He's not putting weight on it now. There we go. I think they're just moving off to go and sleep in the grasses. Other big females now got up and she's heading into Torchwood. So my guess is the whole pride is actually going to start moving into Torchwood. And these Nkunhumas are starting to move into Torchwood. Which means we'll have to go and see the other lion closer, or south of us, closer to Gary Main. Bye bye children, thanks for staying for us at least. They're looking to the south. I think they know that there are some lion to the south of us, and I'm not too sure who they are. We're going to have a look to see who they are shortly. And maybe get a better idea about the dynamics, what's going on here. Oh, they're sniffing around. There's something there where they're sniffing around that I wish I could see. And now he's Fleming. He's doing the phlegm and grimace. So there's been something there. Maybe it's a female that was urinating, but it looked like a couple of them were sniffing in the same spot. They're now all moving to the east. Wait for these two to get up and go. And the last two. Some of them lying down now. There's not moving too far. So it might just be... Oh, wait. Gonna get some. Thought he was about to roar. I think it might just be one of the pride members just calling the rest, these two. See how easy it is to lose them in the grasses. Sorry, other radio was over you. How does it affect what? Okay. Wow, kingfisher killing a snake with Scott. Off you go quickly then, and we'll see if we can stay with the lion. We'll see you shortly again. I could hear Brian in the background there, frantic.
And we were waiting for an adult to come back with a kill, and look what it's come back with, a baby snake. Really incredible. I'm just trying to get an idea of what snake it is exactly, but it's small and difficult to see. It could be a little mole snake, just judging by the shape of its body. Oh, there it goes to... Okay. Wow, this is incredible, folks. Look at this. So it's hard for me to tell exactly what snake it is, but this is a seriously good kill for the woodlands kingfisher. And you can see it's just making sure it's dead. And then it's going to fly on down to a hole that we know they're nesting in. Now I think these are the two adults that we can see in this tree, the ones just above the other one with the snake. And you should be able to see both now, and I'm guessing these are both the adults that are now required to both hunt and feed the chicks that will be inside a cavity in this dead tree. How incredible. We've just been here a few minutes. The one above, I'm not sure if it's the male or the female, brought in the first kill, which was a beetle, and then the second one arrived now with the snake. Incredible. There it goes to drop it off. Which chick is going to be the lucky one to get it? There it goes. It's getting pulled in slowly. Wow, look at this, folks. We can still see a bit of the snake sticking out, but I'm sure it's not going to be very long before... Oh, they gobble it up. There it goes. Well, we have just had an incredible sighting of a woodlands kingfisher doing the coup de grace on a snake that it had caught and brought back to this tree. It then proceeded to make sure it was dead before feeding it into its chicks. So these parents, excuse me, are doing a very good job so far this morning. And we just found this nest a few days ago, so I'm very glad that it's already provided us with some top quality entertainment. And I'm almost tempted to sit here and see what that woodlands kingfisher brings back next. So, a very good example that we just witnessed there, that kingfisher are not strictly fish eaters, so their name can be misleading, and these woodlands kingfishers certainly are not fish dependent or water dependent, so they live out in the bush and feed on insects, and as you can see, snakes are also on the menu. And out of all the kingfishers we do get in this area, it's about a 50% split between those that are water and fish dependent and those that aren't. Now, just going to check, we are not too far from another bird's nest, and it's a bird's nest where Brian and I spent 2.5 hours broken down in this vehicle, and the adults sadly were too scared to come back to the nest when we were nearby to it. So they are not providing us with any good entertainment, but they have been working on their nest, and it has got bigger since Brian and I were stuck here for 2.5 hours. And I was just standing up to check if I could see an adult in the nest from a distance, but sadly there's no sign. There's the beautiful call of the woodlands kingfisher. So we'll give it another minute or two and wait and see whether the other individual doesn't come back with an interesting kill. funnily enough, the other day when we were here, the first kill we saw was that of a centipede, which again is quite a hardcore item to be targeting for your prey. They do have very nasty venom. Now that it's jumped around, you can see that beautiful electric turquoise on its back. And what they do when they're displaying and fighting over territories is they'll land on branches and hold their wings out, therefore displaying those beautiful bright colors, and actually jump from one direction to the next, doing kind of 180s, displaying both forward and back the beautiful colors. But it appears now that one too has also gone off to look for some food after a short break. And who would think, driving past this tree, that nestled in one of those little cavities are a few baby woodlands kingfisher? But there certainly are, one of which has just had a snake for breakfast. So it really is interesting following the smaller animals and smaller events that are unfolding out here, not just the lion hunting the buffalo, but also the woodlands kingfisher hunting the snake and also feeding its family. So we do get spoiled with these little interactions and relationships with different animals from spending a lot of time out here. And I think we've given it enough time, and we can now carry on. We will be back here, so don't worry. And we will definitely try and show you some more feedings from this woodlands kingfisher to its chicks. Now let's see if the adult African harrier hawk is in this nest. I don't think it is. Oh, there, it just took off from another tree. I don't know why they're really nervous of us, but it's obviously just in their nature, shy, more secretive kind of bird. But this is their nest that Brian is panning up to now. And like I said, they have done quite a lot of work on it since we were last here. Folks, I think it's important to get back to Mark as quick as possible, so we will see you later. Over to Mark.
Welcome back. We've just had an amazing thing. The whole pride has been roaring, and as they're disappearing down this road into Torchwood, I think that male, when he lies down on his leg, it's obviously it seems quite bad, but earlier on he was walking on it. It seems he sort of walked some of the kinks out, then he sat down again, and when he got up he was clearly uncomfortable again. But that lioness that we can see lying closer to us, she started calling. There's still one in front of us as well who started answering, and then the next thing, all of them started roaring. Now they might attract the attention of the lion further south. I'm not too sure who they are. There are some other lion on Gowrie Main. Be nice if they start calling again. She is talking. She's clearly vocalizing to not only the pride, but when they start roaring loud, it's a little bit more than just the pride that they're talking to other lion. Hopefully if we'll hear that again before they disappear too far. Most of the pride has now gone over that far ridge, and this female is going to get up shortly and join them. Here we go, they're going to start up again. Only her. She's looking back to see why her sister didn't join her. Unusual, not impossible, but just rather unusual to be calling during the day, because sound gets lost so much during the day. And on a day like this, when there's moisture and cloud, perhaps the sound can still carry somewhat. She's not calling this one. That's a contact call that she's making. I think it was Lisa was asking a question about the male. If he's really badly injured and he can't keep up with the pride, will they leave him behind? Well, yes, they will. But they won't leave him behind because they won't leave him behind to ignore him. They often leave the males behind just so that they can get away from the males. But she's also got a, well, she's stiff from sleeping. She's the same leg. She's also got a little bit of a limp. Maybe it's why she stayed behind like she did. But also, as she starts walking, kind of walking out the kinks in it, maybe a pulled muscle, maybe an injury from hunting. Have to remember these are resilient animals and they heal very well. So now often we've found where a pride will actually leave the males, they'll maybe make a kill and they'll actually leave the males sneak off. The thing is that they're always within the male's territory, so it's not that they're going to leave him behind. They will always be within the male's territory. It's the pride's territory. She's going to start calling again. And you're getting up, girl. No. Quite a nice view of them up the road like that. And they will reunite, so it's not a negative thing, or it's not a permanent thing. If they do want to move on and leave an injured male, there's also a good chance that since he isn't very strong, that he's with the pride, so that he at least has a chance of getting some food. But being a male, it's quite possible also that he will steal a carcass or a kill if it's a small enough kill, or he'll dominate on a larger kill. And sometimes the females prefer to have their own kills where they can at least feed the cubs. Problem is, you can never judge what lion are going to do or how they're going to behave, because they will behave differently on every day of their life, and they will different males will behave differently towards the cubs and the pride. He's clearly not very comfortable, just watching him walk away like that. But you can see now that he's starting to walk a little bit, it eases up, so it's almost like an arthritis thing. After he's been lying down, the limp is bad, and now it's starting to walk it out. Bye bye, girl. She looks back to say goodbye to everybody. She's calling. I don't know who the question was. I think someone asked a question about why is the lioness calling? Is she calling for other males? What is it? Well, the whole pride roars, and part of it is declaration of intent, or the fact that they are within their territory and they are letting other lion in the area know where they are. Part of it is contact calling, maybe to contact other lion. I don't know whether she's trying to contact one of the other Matimbas. Only she really knows why she's calling. It's hard for me to sort of guess what her reasons are for roaring like that. But it is to contact other lion. You can tell the difference between the roars of lion and lioness, because the lioness doesn't roar as long. The grunts after the roaring don't go on as long as they do with the males. Some of them are just milling about in the background there. Quite sad because it's on Torchwood, we can't go there. The cub's starting to come back now. Probably coming back to see where mom is. And then the older cubs look like they're about 2.5. Sit down, idiot. I think as long as we can see one or two of them, we'll stay here. Vancy was also asking how old would the cubs be before they start helping with hunts. Probably from about 2. Unfortunately, up until about 2 years old, they're more likely to hinder the hunt than anything else. They get in the way, they get impatient, when they need to be stalking and they need to be sitting down and quietly lying flat. Cubs often jump the gun a little bit and get a little bit excited and make themselves seen by prey, so they then lose out on the hunt. But it depends on so many factors. You know, it's one of these things that, being animal behavior, obviously the thing called, well, it depends, comes into it as usual. And that's maybe going to block our view. Wonderful. Really? I mean, now that this youngsters come to that female and they sort of playing in this idiot park right in front of us. There are too many cars here now. Can you see them?
Yeah.
Yes, the other lion is starting to come. I can hear a lion coming through the bush, so it sounds like that others might actually come through. Calling again. Oh, because there's been other lion calling. harder at it. Prides that are just declaring territory and vocalizing. Maybe since the vehicles are blocking our view, let's take a little ride south and see if we can find, maybe these other cats are coming this way. It's hard for me to tell people what to do when they're on their own property. The vehicles that are there are the private landowners from this area, and hardly my place to ask them to move in their own sighting on their own property. Since we're not allowed to go there, it would be, I guess, very presumptuous of me or arrogant of me to even suggest it. So let's see, we might pick up, sounded like these other lion, I don't know how many there are, it's like other lion also calling, answering to, whether it's answering or it's challenging or it's just calling. Answering, not quite the right word, but I guess you could say answering the call. There must be still down there where the other cats are. Let me just find out how many vehicles are there. Which station with Ngala Gari main to the cut line? What? He's still asleep, that lion. 1, 2. I think they might be in the same boat we were in, and maybe they can't come onto this property, I don't know. They might be on another channel too. Station with Ngala Gari main. Station with Ngala Gari main. monitoring me. I'm just going to approach the sighting. I only see 2 vehicles. There might be more. If there are more, I'll turn around. But this could be a brother of those Nkunhumas, or rather that Matimba male that's with them. Although there are other cats here too. Interesting. Also interesting, a couple of vultures. There's a hooded vulture, a couple of other vultures in a tree. Just coming closer so that I can get some idea with binoculars. There's a youngster. Looks like a female lying there next to the big male. Big boy. Maybe they're mating, and this is maybe one of the females from the Nkunhumas. Maybe that's why those other females were calling, because maybe this is one of the Nkunhuma females. Other cats from that tribe. I'm not sure. Somebody help out, maybe. Somebody else. Still, if you're there and you're watching. Two white-backed vultures, one hooded vulture. I wonder if they've had something to eat here today, last night. Well, maybe we'll get a better idea what's going on. Gary Main, Cheetah Cutline. Two females. That one looks like a youngster, the one that's sleeping next to the big boy. Although I think I might have to move. Looks like he's got grass in his front of his face. But I don't know if we're going to find anywhere with this time of year with the grass seeds, the grass heads starting to flower and seed. I don't think we're going to get much chance of clear view without it. So a big female. Hello girl. A little bit of a white spot on her nose. She should be easily identifiable. I'm guessing he's the brother of the other. Makes sense that they're calling because the pride is split up. Very windy in Kentucky. Sending a question through. Wendy wanting to know why the lion's roar can travel further at night and what sort of distance does it travel. It's not so much that it travels the distance. Depending on the wind and the air thickness and the humidity and the time of the year can change the distance that the travel roars. It's just that at night the air tends to be thinner. The air tends to carry sound better at night. During the day there are a lot more sounds. Maybe it's just that to our audible range we hear more sounds during the day. But for some reason just it does. The density of the air is different during the day. How far can it carry? Well, depending. I mean, in crisp winter nights you could probably hear a lion's roar up to 5 or 8 miles away. Anywhere from 8 to 10 kilometers. It depends on how they're roaring, it depends on the volume, but if they are roaring to try and get it out there, and there are a couple, like you have a coalition of males that are roaring, it can carry. Day like today, with a wind that is blowing, making a lot of noise in the trees. There's also the fact that the wind is going to carry the call in the direction of the wind. Not going to be easy to hear it upwind. And see if he can mount her, I think. So he's possibly covering her at the moment. When the male is courting a female, when she's in estrus, he becomes her shadow. He won't leave her be. So often, just like now, she can get a little irritable with him, almost like snapping at him. She's the one that has to initiate the mating. Look at him, then he lifts his lip in a little bit of a sheepish grin. Not so much a growl as much as it was. Most inopportune moment to have a stream crash like that. As they started mating, I don't even think we got to see that. It was very interesting. It's possibly going to happen again in 15 or 20 minutes. I don't think there was proper copulation there. I think she was just keeping him interested, and it's quite an interesting facet of lion life, how lionesses can keep males interested to make sure that they're going to stick around long enough for the cubs to be raised to an old enough age that they're not going to be killed by intruding males or other males coming in. I don't know, it's almost like it was sabotage. I'm sorry, that was just really, really strange. How it's the number of times that this happens, that as we get to a really interesting thing, the stream crashes. It's almost as though somebody's switching it off for me. But we'll stay with them. It's very interesting to watch lion mating. It's a process that takes place over a period of a few days, and they're likely to copulate anywhere from every 20 minutes to every half hour or so. If we sit here long enough, maybe he'll entice her to get up again. But yeah, it is the female that normally when she's in estrus, she does a lot of rubbing, and she does a lot of displaying in front of him to give him a hint that it's time to be covered. I'm not too sure how long they've been going at it, these two. It might only have just started. Might be why the Nkunhumas are close by, and then might explain the roaring. Because when the mating does take place, the female that is in estrus, that is being covered, is likely to just, and the male of course, they're likely to not follow on with the pride when the pride moves on. I can't remember how many in total are in the Nkunhumas. Maybe I can get a hint from one of the viewers out there, Sol or Karen or Sharon, Valerie. Gosh, I could carry on with some of the names, but I guess I still haven't caught up with them properly. It's quite difficult when one doesn't see them for a long time, and then we don't see them constantly. We don't see them for long enough periods that I can reacquaint myself with them. It's not like when I was driving in areas where I was getting to see cats almost every day. Then it's fairly easy to, because you become to know individuals and their different characters. It's when you see them for a few minutes every 2 weeks or so, it's kind of hard to keep track. And looks like the sky might be clearing too. Okay, copied. But if they get up and they're going to mate again, you got to cut straight back to me. We missed it last time. We're just going to get an update from Scott, see what he's up to. And I suppose in the meantime, I'm going to try and change my position. Now that I think we're the only vehicle here, I think we might be able to get a better position to be able to get all three of them in the shot. And as soon as, if anything happens, you'll come back to us, but for now, we'll go back to Scott and we'll see you shortly.
Welcome back, and I am very happy to hear that you have been getting spoiled with some great lion sightings with Mark, so that's good news. A little bit jealous actually. Myself and Brian have not seen too much. We responded to some Birchall starlings which we heard alarm calling, and we do it so often, going back to birds or going to birds that we can hear are alarming. What they're alarming at, we often don't get to see or find out because the animals may be hidden. Snakes, mongoose. So hard to tell exactly what they do alarm at, even though we do try a lot of the time. Today though was different, and we managed to see a slender mongoose. So that was nice, and nice to actually be rewarded by seeing what they are actually alarm calling at, because we so often get there, know there's something there, but just can't see what it is. I've linked back towards Woyatela Dam, as this was the last area that we had some leopard tracks heading into vaguely into this area. It's just an area that we know has produced so many leopard sightings for us. So while Mark has been busy showing you guys some great lion sightings, myself and Brian have been hoping to find a leopard to add to the mix and anything else along the way, but sadly we haven't had too much luck this morning. I think we exhausted all of our luck with the woodlands kingfisher. That was really an incredible sighting. We will potentially never see that again in our lives. It's not often you see a specific bird like the woodlands kingfisher with a kill as substantial as that of a snake. So a very unique sighting, and something that both myself and Brian were and still are very happy about, that we managed to see that. We have spoken about that a lot and the uniqueness of that sighting, so that is why I was so excited. And like I said, I think we may have exhausted all of our luck on that sighting this morning. We also saw a rock monitor briefly, which was, again, it's an animal that we don't see very often, so that was nice. But sadly, before we could get Alex in the control to link back to us, it scurried down a hole in a termite mound. So those are what we have seen since you've been gone. I guess another unique sighting we had today was the vervet monkey sighting, and that was also something Brian and I discussed, that it's absolutely bizarre that you can view leopard and lion more than monkeys, but that's how it is out here. So very, very interesting. We've had a good morning with unique animal sightings, and always good to share that with you, especially for those of you who watch the drives on a regular basis. I'm sure you also appreciate the more unique sightings that we do have. And it's one of the beautiful things about the Safari Live experience, is that unlike being here on a safari where you've got a fixed stay, and it's usually a short stay, within which people or your guide may try and cram in as much as possible, which I feel detracts from a situation when you're pressured to try and get things out of the wilderness. Rather be in the wilderness and take whatever it gives you. So from a guiding perspective, and also from a viewer's perspective, I really enjoy the fact that you don't have that same pressure you would have on a regular safari. Good way to also emphasize that example is the fact that on one afternoon Brian and myself managed to spend 3 hours with one individual leopard. Now, on that same afternoon, many game viewers came through, probably 7 or 8 different game viewers, each of which stayed with the leopard for maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And that just goes to show that the guides do feel pressured to show people as many different things as possible, rather than focusing on the quality of one actual sighting and one interaction. They'd rather try and get many, and that, I feel, detracts from the quality of the experience. Just doing a little loop through the quarantine clearings here. Again, a place where we've had great leopard sightings, and elephants and buffalo. And hyena, we had hyena feeding on termites one evening in these plains, which was beautiful to see a few weeks ago. What will we find here today, I wonder? I was just about to say that I'm sure Alex will give me any updates on the lion and how they're doing with Mark. And as I was about to say that, Alex just sent through a message saying they are looking a little bit more lively. So I might not catch up with you again this morning because Mark is on top of things with those lions. So if I don't see you again, have a wonderful rest of the drive with Mark, and also from Brian, thanks very much for your great camera work. Good to be with you again, and good to have Jiga back. So we have got 2 vehicles this afternoon again, which is something to look forward to. Anyway, until then, unless I see you later, have a great drive and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back, everyone. Not much has happened. We managed to change position. Now we've got all 3 of them, I think, in view. But thanks to Sil, it clarified something for me, which makes a lot more sense now. These are the 2 Styx females from the Styx Pride, STYX. And evidently they've been mating with this Matimba for a while now. I guess it's just unusual that the other Matimbas moved over onto with the Nkunhumas, because they, I think, have also been associating with other males, the Salati males, and none of these males are actually bothering with the cubs at the moment of the Nkunhumas. But probably the reason why Nkunhuma started moving off into Torchwood was the presence of these 2 Styx girls. I don't really want to clash. I don't want to cross paths. I think somewhere along the line they probably have common ancestry, and they've certainly grown up alongside each other in terms of territories. When I counted them at the Nkunhumas, there were 9 of them there. And Sharon in Austria, and Adam, and of course Sil earlier mentioning. Also others that are coming in with IDs and confirming. This is one of the Matimbas with the 2 Styx females. Interesting that this is taking place. I would be interested to know from those of you who are writing in with some details, when was the last time Styx females were seen mating? Because yeah, she's getting up again. She's probably going to just go and lie in some shade, but being in estrus, he's not going to let her move more than 2 feet away from him, using her tail to see where he is, to feel her way behind her. She just wants to lie in the shade. A bit of sun coming out, so it's getting a little bit warm. I hope they're not going to... No, she just wants to lie down. She's not going to let him... Hissing at him. She is, I think. Well, this time it's concealed a little bit. We'll give them their privacy. That might have been more productive, the way she snapped at him and now lying on her back. Let's move. Let's see if we can see. Although it's not going to be much, so now they're going to sleep again for another 20 minutes. interesting that a couple of vultures have landed in those 3 vultures have landed. No others have joined them, but just interesting that there are those 3 vultures, probably just there based on the fact that there are lion here. Hoping, I guess, since there are no thermals for them to fly around in, they might as well find a predator and sit with the predator. Hooded vulture doesn't necessarily need a carcass. Hooded vulture will pick on in feces of the predators. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn and position ourselves without being intrusive onto Torchwood. I'll still get a view of the other female and the vultures in the background. Copulation, at the end of copulation there is a little bit of pain that is induced by the action of mating, and it's often why you'll find in most of the cats, in fact, why the male will grip the female by the back of the neck, in fact at times even bite quite hard, because it's not only somewhat painful for him, but it's somewhat painful for her too when he withdraws, and quite often that causes her to whip around and try and well, bite, snap at him, sometimes give him a smack with an open paw. And that is a subduing gesture, biting on the back of the neck like that. Doesn't always work, but often old lionesses have got a lot of scars on the back of their neck, and a lot of the scars on the male's face are from that moment. And sorry, volume was down. Give me that question again, please. A couple of vultures there. Would this male, so who was that in Florida? Did you hear that? Question from Florida. Would he mate with both females if they were both in estrus? Jan in Florida. It would be pretty hard for him to. I would imagine that his brother would come to assist. Strangely enough, lionesses do tend to time their estrus, not voluntarily of course, it's just the way it works, but it works very well, that they come into estrus pretty much about the same time. They tend to give birth pretty close proximity to each other. Most of that is because raising cubs of the same age is beneficial. When you have cubs that are different in age, with quite a discrepancy in age, there's a lot more competition from the older cubs, and a lot harder for the younger cubs to make it when they're trying to get into to feed. Interesting that the wind's picked up, and so there are a few thermals. I'm seeing a vulture flying off to our right. I'm wondering if it's going to, looks like it's in a thermal trying to get lift, trying to gain altitude, but I don't think it's seen this lot sitting in the tree yet. If anything, the ones in the tree here are watching this vulture. Now it's coming over. Gonna get too high to follow to the camp. Hibiscus, foxglove, sesamosum, bunch of flowers, a lot of heliotropes earlier. Now see, these vultures are taking off, actually taking off after this particular vulture that came over now. Also trying to get into a thermal. I guess they've given up on these cats. The cats are mating, they're not going to be hunting. Is that perhaps weird enough with my binoculars? Were you on the vulture? She was watching the vulture. The last vulture took off from the tree, and she was following it. Linda in California, did he leave his pride to come and mate with the females? The Styx females. I think that doesn't really work that way here, Linda. I think what it is that these Matimba males, this is where they live, and the Styx pride are part of the Styx females are part of their pride now, within their territory. I think that's how, more or less, how it works. It's not that these Matimba males left their pride. I think this is the edge of sort of roundabout the end edges of their territory, and they are the males of the Styx pride right now. She's getting up. She's going to go and join them. She's a pretty girl. No, she's just changing position. I thought she was going to move into some shade. That is the most of the sun that we got. I think it's all of we got. It's getting grayer again. The other two flat. She's also managed to, the other female was, oh, 1, 2, 3, all the vultures right above us. You can see she's watching them. They're circling above us. Well, circling is not the right word, but they're trying to find thermals. I think that's the 3 vultures that were in the tree, and this other 4th vulture that came along that are now all found one particular thermal, taking them higher and further away. Hello Anna in the UK, wanting to know if big cats, or do they or can they purr? Only the cheetahs can purr, Anna. Lion and leopard don't purr. But if and when we get to see those cheetah, there are 2 that have been seen every week or so up on Buffelshoek, if they ever come down this way, which they might. Look at that, those 4 vultures are so far away now, they are almost over Buffelshoek Dam. That's where the thermal's taken them. Only 3, because it was 3 white-backed and 1 hooded. Hooded, I think, because the hooded vulture has gone its own way. A little bit chilly all of a sudden. This is a very, very healthy cat. I'm sure she must be one of the Sticks ladies that I was watching. One of the same Sticks girls that's been around. She's probably as old as Karula, if not maybe a bit older. Eight to 10, maybe more. I'm not sure. I think she knows best to stay clear of the mating couple. She doesn't need to be on top of them, I don't think. We'll see where she goes. I think she'll just go lie nearby. Not that they'll do anything to her, it's just a, I think, it's just a, the way they are. Coming in with their ears flattened, not making eye contact with them, just flattening the ears and just indicating to them if they are getting a little bit bad-tempered that she's just coming to lie down. So she didn't even look at them, she put her ears back, a submissive gesture, just to show no ill intent, and then only looked their way when she lay down. And noticed that neither of them were watching her anyway. Probably so accustomed to the sound of her walking through the grasses. Quite often lions get a fright when other pride members start walking around. They jump up suddenly. But I think there's an intimate amount of time that these two cats have spent together, and well, he's just a big old sleepy male. So are you looking, you're not looking to, at such a great profile there. Let me move again. I think we'll take a chance and see if maybe they'll get up and mate again. Just going to turn around and face the other way. hoping that we might be in a fairly good place over here to see that. Can you see over? I think it was a cat actually that taught me patience as a kid, patience with nature, and it's cats in nature, big ones, that have taught me patience with cats. Gets rewarded, well, patience with nature gets rewarded very often just sitting in a spot. There's always something to see. Even if it's something small, something macro. Hello, Sherry in Ohio. Sherry was asking how many tries does it take for lioness to get pregnant. Well, I don't know, Sherry, I don't know how one would ever measure that. I don't know how one would ever be able to tell. Considering they mate over a period of 3 to 4 days every 15, 20 or 30 minutes. So it's copulating a few hundred times. Now, one can tell whether there's penetration or not, because quite often there isn't. And of course you have to be positioned yourself in the right way to see that. I don't even know how one would be able to tell. I don't know any way of measuring it. I think a lot of the times when one sees them mating and she doesn't react much at all, I think you could probably say that proper copulation didn't take place. But there are times when afterwards, when she does get aggressive and she snaps at him and he snarls at her and she turns over and rolls onto her back, I think those are times when you can be pretty sure that something happened, because evidently it assists the uniting of the sperm and the egg by lying on their backs. So I think that's a fair indication that something happened, and at times when she doesn't do that, maybe it didn't happen. So I think you could count the times. And I remember being with a friend who was doing his PhD online in East Africa, and to the auspices of Uppsala University in Sweden, where part of the study actually was trying to establish how many times during the copulation, or during the mating process, over that period of time, how many times it did appear that actual penetration took place, and then, well, the resultant cubs that came out 3 months later. But I still think that it would be impossible to tell. Of course, you often find that when there are brothers, they will both, or all of the brothers that are in a coalition, will all copulate as well. Maybe, maybe not always. Sometimes the female's estrus lasts longer than the male can hold out. Oh, okay. Thanks, Sil. I thought these old girls were older than that. Still saying they're about 4 years old. So I guess the moms that I knew of the sticks, these must be the daughters that came out after I left. No, we've only been... Oh, so they would have been the two sisters. Correct me if I'm wrong then, Sil. The two sisters of the young sticks male. The little boy that was doomed. See, I lose track. I have lost track. And I'm guessing then they haven't had cubs yet. And this might be the first time that she's mating. Hello, Kimmy. Thanks for the message. May the force be with you too. What's the date today? The 10th. I think I was there on the 4th, a week ago on the 4th. I did say that. Those of us born on the 4th of a month, especially 4th of April. We're having a war. Sun and cloud are having a war again today. The name I haven't heard before, Archeot, in Arkansas. Unless it's a what do you call it? Nickname. Question is, I referred to males as coalition and yet the females are a pride. Is that always the case, or is it only in this instance with these two prides? No, it's always the case, really. The males that form a coalition, why we call it a coalition is because they're not necessarily blood brothers. We've seen males of different males join up and form a coalition, and there are also brothers of different ages or different mothers from a pride that will form a coalition. And depending on what pride they came from and what their status is, whether they were not really called a coalition when they're cubs within the pride or even sub-adults within the pride. Here's a hooded vulture coming to have a look again behind us, above us. I mean, they're just brothers when they're within the pride, but once they leave the pride, because they will have to leave the pride, even if their fathers are, whether they've got one father or two or three, that pride is, let's say it's the Nkunhuma pride, just for argument's sake, or the Styx pride. The coalition of males that own that pride are still, I suppose, in a way referred to as the Styx pride males when they own that territory. But what's happening here with the naming of things, and it's perhaps one of the things that happens when we start assigning names to wild animals, because we've got to remember that we give them names so that we can identify individuals and keep track of individuals. And to call a group of males a coalition, or give them the coalition a name, does confuse the issue, because essentially they will end up with a pride, and then they should be called the males of that pride. But for whatever reason that we stick with the coalition names, it's merely a name that we give to a group of males. They still belong to a pride when they either own the territory or when they're sub-adults. I wonder if it's the same three vultures coming back. Just to check up on sleeping cats. They've probably done a big 20-mile, 50-mile loop. So if that helps to explain it a little bit. You see, while male lion do own the pride, I guess the way they look at it, they own it's their pride. The fact is that they have to come from another area and occupy that territory, a territory that was established by their predecessors who were males from another pride. And it's really the females within a pride that tend to stay within the territory, and so the territory becomes known more or less as the pride territory, but there will be change of ownership of that territory because of the dynamics of lion, particularly male lion dynamics. They can't take charge of a pride for longer than a few years, but they do have to be strong enough to be able to maintain that territory for a few years. And this is where the coalitions come in. It's just far more viable, especially for big males, males of character, that especially for them to be able to establish, maintain and hold a territory, to sire their own cubs that are their own gene pool. I'm just going to have to move. I don't know if Elvis wants to move past, or maybe they're just coming to look at them. I think they're coming to look at the cats. No good males coming into a territory and taking over, and then they're ousted within a year or two of their taking over their territory, because most likely they are going to have cubs that are underage and cubs that will be killed by the males that take over. It's just the way lion dynamics work. Vital element in lion dynamics. And that wait 2 years again before they can have cubs. Hello Jeffrey in Austin, Texas. Very much so. In fact, that's where I was sort of leading into that in a way when I was discussing the process of mating and how it induces pain and the importance of that. Jeffrey just wants to confirm something about that. I didn't want to get too technical into the whole description of the shape and the way. Hi Elvis.
Hello, mate.
How are you, boy?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Hi everyone.
So,
I guess what Jeffrey was asking is about the barbs on the penis of the male lion and whether that stimulates ovulation. And it does, very much so. That's exactly what happens. Is that cats do have barbs, a barb that tends to rip a little bit on withdrawal, and it's that pain that stimulates ovulation, and that's one of the reasons why at the end of mating, after they've copulated, if she does turn around and looks like she wants to kill him, I think it's because of that, and that when there isn't penetration, the pain isn't there, and that's why she doesn't get too aggressive. So let's see, he's a little bit awake now. He's going to try and... Interesting that he's initiating, and most of the time it's the female that does. She'll walk towards him and actually turn around and hit his head with her rump and then lie down in front of him. But now he's begging now. She's going to, yeah, we'll see. She's pushing him away. Growling at him. And they're snapping at him. I'm not get ready to move if I need to get a better position. If she's gonna let him do it again. Oh, she didn't do much. Still rolling on her back again. Thing is, towards the end of the mating period, especially since it sounds like they've been mating for a while, it's obviously less intensive as it is the beginning of her estrus cycle. He's just scratching. He's got glands in his toes that leave scent. She's digging. She wants to find a little spot to sleep that is probably where he's not going to be able to disturb her too much. That sticks in your way for him.
No, it's fine.
But I don't know if we've been timing that, but I think it's roughly 20 minutes. I think that we've been waiting, maybe a bit more. 3 times since we got here. And I think we'll use the last 20 minutes. They're going to sleep now for another 20 minutes or so. Go forward. I want to try and get one last shot for you. That might be nice. Is if we just get the wind blowing in his hair over her face. That might be nice just from this angle. Like about there. Yeah. And then I'm going to use the last few minutes of drive to Andrew, come in. You're still on Torchwood. Are you lucky this morning, Mpo? I think I'll use the last of the morning. Go for a drive back towards home and see. Maybe there might be something else to see. Go down Central Road, I think. And goodbye, children. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Bye, Mr. Lion. Getting caught up everywhere. All I want to do is take my jacket off. That's full. A nice morning of cats. I was thinking this morning when we got up and it was still drizzling in the dark, the 4 o'clock dark of summer, with setting setting gibbous moon, waning gibbous, that was hidden by cloud, made it pretty dark. And I'm thinking, well, it's not going to be much of a day for wildlife, but it is possibly going to be a nice day for cats. And lo and behold, it has been. For some of the guides it has been. All 3 cats have been found this morning. Leopard and cheetah up on Buffelshoek. And of course 2 prides of lion. We've been very lucky. I don't know when I last saw 2 different groups of lion. Interestingly, so close. Very soon. I think it'll take a long time before we're likely to see two different groups are close together, actually vocalizing. And if anything, what I'm now thinking about the vocalizing of these two prides this morning was just to let each other know where they were, that they might be on the edges of each other's home ranges or territories, and choosing not to have a confrontation, choosing to vocalize, but then move off for the kahumas, move off in a different direction, even though the males are brothers, or they're together, two matimbas. Rather unusual lion behavior, well, not really behavior, just activity, rather unusual lion things going on with the number of male coalitions that we seem to be getting in this area. They're the Matimbas, they're the Salatis, they're the Birmingham boys. The Majinga lions have all gone southwest. I think they're all down near Ulusaba and Nedubi, and I think the Majinga lions are down that way. Often also that we could drive down the road and find a lion lying in the road. Hello tortoise, you know that there was a pride of lion here earlier. A hingeback tortoise. I think that population numbers are quite stable now. It used to be an endangered species. I don't know what the status is of the hingeback now, but did you see any cats in the grass? They must have moved on, I guess.
No, nothing.
Sounds pretty awesome that you managed to see a kingfisher catching a snake and killing it and feeding it to its chicks. I think that's absolutely incredible. It's another once in a lifetime kind of thing to see. So one can never say that because we have bad weather there's not going to be anything interesting. This is nature. There is always something interesting happening somewhere. It's up to us to find it. Something. Got a big grasshopper. Oh, sorry, kingfisher. Run away. also think it's time for a leopard in a tree with a kill. We found one of those. Flower for the day. I think it's an anthericum. I haven't had this flower, or I haven't put this flower up yet. Or anthericum. Oh, a little tiny baby tortoise. That's almost a hatchling. A little leopard tortoise. Oh, scrambling away. Running too fast. As fast as a baby tortoise can run. Bye bye, baby. So it must be a struggle for a little thing like that to get through this thick grass. But I suppose by the same token, pretty well concealed, they do tend to stay under thick cover. There is less dense grass under thick cover, especially places where there are big branches. The undercover on ground level is less, but on the top it's denser. Used to be African hawk eagles that nested near here. They nested. But I haven't seen a pair here for a while. I saw one flying the one day. Interesting eagles, African hawk eagles. Very strong bond. They do everything together. number of eagles fly around and do things on their own and join up with their mates various times during the day or at the nest. But the African hawk eagles, very much like the black eagle or Vero's eagle, pretty much do everything together. I think that some of these gardenias might come out flower too after this rain. Sort of an out of season flower, just for the sake of another gardenia. But those would have been flowering in October, I suppose. I think it's safe to say that, pretty much safe to say that everybody's weekend time now. Some of you staying up late Friday night. Some of you getting ready to eat, ready for Saturday night. Some of you facing a Saturday of fun. If you're behind us a little bit, maybe like the UK. Hope you all have a fantastic day, fantastic night wherever you are. This is the weekend. I know there are also a bunch of viewers who join us on weekends that aren't able to be with us during the week. Glad you're with us. I hope we can get back to some of those lions this afternoon. Unfortunately, they are right on the boundary, so well, depends. But only way to know is to head up there and find out at 4 o'clock Central African time, when we will be back out again. From all of us here at Wild Earth. Have a pleasant day, pleasant stay, pleasant night. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of quiet driving for the last minute before we say goodbye, as we head down into the dip where Gary is and closer to camera. My name is Mark. VM has been on camera, Alex has been in final control. I love you lots and we'll see you later. Bye everybody. Enjoy the last moments of our morning drive. Gravity drive, silent engine.